blitz and bullet online. But for Liem, it's been more over the board, and it's go time as we begin our 5+1 with the first game, and it's the Trumpowski.
Yeah, we're starting off with, Hikaru is kind of in this phase right now where he's not always playing the absolute top moves, but he is really, really good at finding the sidelines and executing them super well when it comes to blitz and bullet formats. And it just shows he's the type of player that just wants to get a position. We've seen him open with pawn to b3 on move number one, Tanya. So not surprised to see something here that will likely be swapped as the match goes on. I don't think he'll play this every single time.
I think today is going to be an absolute treat when it comes to openings. We're going to see all kinds of them, and especially by Hikaru. His repertoire with blitz, bullet is just so incredibly varied. He can start with principled moves like d4, switch them up, or even flank openings. The amount of times you've seen him play the reti or push the b pawn early on, like you said, sometimes on move one. Even with the black pieces, we might see him employ solid stuff like Queen's Gambit decline, but then also rely on King's Gambit on King's Gambit, King's Indian defense, and
Right.
the modern and the perk setups, just double flanking his bishop. I think it's going to be a lot of fun opening wise. But Liem, one of his big assets are also his deep opening preparation. And I think he's doing pretty well so far, Aman.
Yeah, one of the things about this position is, black wants to play knight c6 and b4. So white usually slides the rook to c1. Now, my understanding of this position is it can actually be beneficial for white to capture on b8. And I think that's why the computer is not liking this position as much. So I actually think that Hikaru's game right now is objectively not good. And I also think he probably knows it. But, this is speed chess. You can play pretty much anything. Credit to Liem. I think he's executing, Tanya, an absolutely beautiful plan here of knight to a4, and that required a capture. That b pawn is going to be weak. An idea like rook a6, b6 in the future.
And notice how the bishop on g6 is just beautifully placed to stop any defenders from getting to that b pawn. So give him two moves and suddenly big pressure. You can see it on Hikaru as well. He doesn't like what he's gotten. He misses that accurate h4. It was time for him to go on the counter offense. Meanwhile, Liem not skipping a beat. He's going for your idea. Rook b5. And if you have to play rook a2 to defend that b2 pawn, that's not good news.
Yeah, it's been a very bad opening for Hikaru. And I do think that maybe capturing that knight on b8 would have slowed down a lot of this progress. There's a lot of kingside expansion to be had by Hikaru. And to be honest, yeah, h4, h6 makes sense here. It is a bad position. Rook a8, rook a6, rook b6 as well.
Wow. So the other rook will join the party, and then you've got to find ways to defend it. Perhaps we'll see Hikaru use his king to defend those positions, trying to march it to c1 to keep b2 protected. It looks like Aman Hikaru's playing from a hotel room in one of his travels. We can barely see half of his camera. The position does look half bad for white, but Hikaru going for the offense on the other side. Liem looking calm and composed.
Yeah, and I think because we just had the match yesterday with Wesley So, and he was saying that the Hikaru is now back in St. Louis. He was playing some tournaments actually in Canada, but I believe that that's where he is currently, Tanya, and so that would make perfect sense. Yeah, fitting this match into his schedule, and honestly, he can't be that happy playing this position in game number one. But like I said, Hikaru, a phenomenal defender, very resourceful. Even though the position looks bad, we also have to think, where's the progress that can be made for Liem? I said rook a8, rook a6, rook b6, but Hikaru has already preempted that with rook h2, now maybe bringing the king to c1. Position's bad, but is it lost?
And the thing is, getting a good position against Hikaru is not even half the job done, right? His never say die defense attitude, how many times you've seen him turn it around in those few moments. He's the king of flagging from worse positions. He's also managed to equalize the time so far. He's going for those central breaks, now blocking the bishop out. I think one can ignore that question mark because from a human perspective, this is what you want to play. You want to break that central pawn formation that black has, get your own counterplay, create some weaknesses. And Hikaru almost looks like he's going on the counter offense. Aman, if we did not have the eval bar saying that Liem's still better, I'd almost feel that Hikaru's made a lot of progress.
Yeah, the fact of the matter is the rook on a2 is not part of the game, so it's really difficult to ever imagine a position unless there's a significant blunder where white ends up better. It's just not possible with that rook on a2, and there's no future for the rook to rejoin. I was thinking knight f1, knight e3, knight c2, knight b4, but I mean, if I'm trying to find a 4 move long, knight maneuver just to free the rook, you can tell the position is really in Le Quang's favor at the moment.
That's the problem child, the problem piece, the rook on a2. You put that on the e line suddenly, and we're talking about a completely different game. The bishop on h7, the unchallenged light squared bishop is an absolute monster, making it impossible for white to coordinate pieces. And here he's going for a plan of his own, also targeting that f3 pawn if the knight comes to g5.
Yeah, and that blue arrow, a reminder to the people watching, that move means that white needs to spot this move in order to not have a significantly worse position. So this is the best move in the position according to the engine. Knight to g6, the fork, and just also blocking that bishop on h7. We know how crucial it is to do that because, Tanya, you can play king c2, rook a1, rook e1 afterwards. So I think this is a huge achievement.
We just said put that rook on e1. We're talking about a completely different game, and Hikaru is making it happen. He does block that bishop on h7. It might come at the cost of a pawn, taking and then dropping that knight to the square the rook just vacated, knight to h8, does win a pawn. Whoa, a sacrifice.
Wow, what? Yeah, I mean, rook takes e7. Now, I have to say, I didn't even consider it because I just optically looked at the knight on h7 and said, well, no, that can't be good. The knight is basically trapped in there. But I guess Hikaru is saying that, I mean, the position was so tough, he'd rather play this. Tanya, do you understand what's going on here?
I think it's exactly what you said. He wanted some relief in the position. Also, black will have to spend a few moves getting to that knight on h7. Meanwhile, I think Hikaru aims at getting that rook from a2 into the game. It's sacrifice after sacrifice. He does take on f6. What's the pawn count? He's got 2 extra pawns as well. So materially still in the balance.
Yeah, and I can definitely see this position working. Remember, the rook is offside, but so is the rook on b5, meaning it's really only doing one thing. Black is still much better here, but if you play a move like f4, bring the king up, bishop e5, also knight f3 coming, Tanya, those pawns can actually just win the game on their own.
This is not what the bar suggests to be. Gives an advantage to black, but I think very difficult to play. Also knowing that, you were in complete control and white was struggling to even find moves. And suddenly you have to be a little precise, not to allow white the activity. I think it's a tough spot for Liem to handle right now. He's trying to get his king to e6. Is it time that Hikaru starts pushing the pawns? f4, g5, plant that bishop on e5.
Yeah, I think the move king d7 also prepares the rook to maybe slide over to the e-file. So Hikaru has to be careful that he doesn't allow both rooks to show up on the e-file and start invading before his rook can join on e1. So it's quite a delicate position. He's spending some time here. Le Quang Liem, we have to say, has managed the clock very, very well, kept up on the clock, on the position. A very, very good first game showing to start things off.
100%. He's got a big advantage on the clock, on the board as well. Hikaru attacks the rook, gives a check. Liem does. The other rook headed to that file. Will Hikaru be in time to go f4, bishop e5 to block the e line and stop the rooks from infiltrating?
Well, yeah, the thing with f4 is it accomplishes bishop e5, but it does allow knight d6, knight e4. We see a full invasion trapping the white rook, but apparently knight e4, the top engine move missed by Hikaru. Oh, this is looking bad, Tanya.
Now the rooks have entered. Hikaru's relying all his hopes on that h6 pawn and a big blunder. What happened there?
What was
Hikaru
that?
was winning for one move. He was winning for one move.
What was rook g2? I have no